Before I start this video, please know that this is heavily opinion-based. If you're a major Evangelion fan who thinks Evangelion is the best thing in the entire universe, you own a Rei or Asuka body pillow, probably thousands of dollars in Evangelion hentai doujins, and you somehow have a lifetime supply of Eva canned bread, gonna be honest, this video is not for you. Not cause I can't handle negative comments or anything, it's just annoying when people don't understand that it's 2019 and people have an opinion from the norm. I mean, opinions are like t-shirts. We all have them. Just saying. Alright, roll the intro and let's get started. Rather than giving a full review, because there is so much Evangelion content, I'm just gonna talk about what I dislike the most and a little bit of what made me enjoy it. The more praise means the more I liked it. Also, I'll be featuring gameplay, as I'd imagine the copyright now on Evangelion is pretty strong thanks to Netflix. So, let's go!
Neo Genesis Evangelion.
Before anyone types away, yes, I know Anno had deep depression when making this. Every human being on this planet knows this. But just because someone was unwell doesn't mean I'm officially not allowed to express my thoughts on the series or critique it. If I was going through what Anno did and I made a very flawed video or Vocaloid cover, does that mean that no one's allowed to critique it? No, you put work out there, which means duh, people are gonna critique it. Released in October 1995 and finishing in March 1996, Neon Genesis Evangelion was a huge contributor into exploding anime into popularity. Though I wouldn't say it made anime popular in the West yet, I would honestly say that anime didn't become super mainstream and popular until around the 2010s. I'm sorry, I just couldn't like this series. Not only does the plot drag itself out in a lot of places with Shinji quitting and rejoining NERV twice, but I also feel like there's a lot of anime that did these themes better after and a little before Evangelion. Trippy, Devilman Crybaby, subverting the genre, Madoka Magica, incredible animation, Akira, action, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, psychological, The Promised Neverland, and Death Note, sci-fi, Ghost in the Shell, anti-escapism, Me. Yes, it's a music video, but it counts. One big issue I feel it had was its anti-escapism message. Escapism is a very broad spectrum in how it works. Did you have a rough day at work or at school, so you need to play a video game or watch a video to get your mind off it? That's escapism, and honestly, that's healthy escapism. There is nothing wrong with turning off your outside life and indulging in a little daydreaming or a video game for like a couple of hours. However, I do understand the kind he meant was the dangerous kind that's legitimately life-destructing, yet his execution of this just came off as confusing in a way. The anime basically bashes you for even having a little bit of escapism for a happier life, as if any form of escapism is bad, when I personally disagree with that. According to Evangelion, you want to dream that you won't be eating ramen tonight because you're a starving college student? Too bad. Fuck you for daydreaming because life sucks, so deal with it. Like, that just feels so wrong. Another thing I didn't like too much was the soundtrack. Now, there are some songs I do like. I absolutely love the prep for the battle music, the song Separation Anxiety, the end song, and the opening, which is legitimately fucking amazing, by the way, and I totally didn't play Cruel Angel's Thesis like 50 times like an idiot when writing this script. However, what I mean is that sometimes the soundtrack would put in music that felt so tonally deaf that it was like legitimately comical sometimes. Like the scene near the end where Kaworu summons an angel made me laugh so hard from how ill-fitting the song was. Like that was almost Griffith's resurrection in Berserk 2016 levels of bad. Last thing I found super frustrating with the series was the heavy reliance on what I call Seizure symbolism. I understand that this was a heavy thing in 90s anime. I've seen my fair share of 90s anime, so I know this very well. However, this series was just too much for me. This anime would flash shit so much in my face that I legitimately had to turn away because the flashing started to make my head feel funny and my eyes feel really strange. I especially couldn't watch this series in the dark because I just started to feel really weird at all the intense flashing, especially in the final 2 episodes of the series. Honestly, the series gets so bad with this that I honestly am shocked no one with epilepsy was reported to have been hospitalized from this anime. Like, it's not Electric Soldier Porygon levels of bad, but this is still really bad. I'm sorry, but flashing images of "I'm sorry" and "mama" and a million quotes from every character in the series is not smart symbolism. That's just asking for someone to get a seizure. And when it wasn't busy trying to give you a seizure, it's boring you out of your goddamn mind from painfully long pauses. I understand the symbolism for the elevator scene. I've seen videos of it too, folks. But 45 seconds is way too long for a pausing shot. If the shot was like 15-20 seconds, the point of tension would have been there. But because it was damn near a minute, then all tension was gone because now you're there annoyed asking it to move on already. Hell, during the scene where Shinji is about to kill Kaworu, that scene lasts a minute and 6 seconds. Again, that is not tension. That's just annoying. The shot would have been filled with more intensity if you show the initial shot for 15 seconds. Amp up some tension filled with music. Show a shot of Shinji's Ava, then a shot of Shinji's shaking hands, back to the Ava's head, and then show a shot where his head plops into the orange Fanta. Then I honestly think it would have been better. A minute and 6 seconds of silence is boredom, not suspense. I would know because suspense movies are my favorite. In fact, the scene I just described, I'm going to show you with my editing how this scene would have made it so much better if it went how I described. I'm just gonna throw in some other things I disliked, which are down to personal preference rather than genuine criticism. I feel like they chickened out by not killing Toji like they do in the manga. I feel like there's not much impact to an audience because we've seen everyone get hurt by now in the series that I honestly would have preferred if they just killed him. It would have been devastating to the audience and to the characters in my opinion. Though Rei is another one of my favorite characters, she's probably the most underused character. She has an arc up until episode 10 where she's legitimately forgotten about until near the end where I guess Anno was like, oh yeah, Rei was a thing. Which he does state in interviews along with other writers for the show that they did forget Rei existed until near the end. The fact that Ritsuko's sudden obsession with Gendo felt super out of place when the entire series does not even remotely hint that she's sexually or romantically interested in Gendo until near the end, so it comes out of nowhere. Shinji's character up until the end, I know he's a realistic depiction of a 14-year-old with depression, I'm not gonna hide that, but that doesn't mean I have to automatically like him, you know? It's not that I found him annoying either, he just reminds me of negative people I've had in my life. We've all had that one person who emotionally drained us as people because they want any excuse they can to drag others down with them so they feel like shit too. Shinji is that person we've had in our lives, and frankly, I just don't care for him for that. It's all this that just made me find Evangelion average at most from how I personally didn't enjoy it. However, there are things I liked too. Here's a quick list to make a long story short. Misato is a really great character with an amazing arc throughout the series. She was easily my favorite character, hands down. Kaji is pretty hot, and he was cool, and I really liked him. Kaworu is another one of my favorite characters, and I just really wish he was used more because his character was such an enigma and so well written despite being in only one episode. Funny how this guy who appeared in one episode was more interesting than the side characters we had to deal with for 25 episodes. I absolutely loved that Rei was a representation of waifu culture. That was just something really cool and something I do wish more anime did today, so huge props to them for that. Gendo was a really fascinating character because he's basically Shinji as an adult. Asuka's character, I gotta say that even though I don't care for her as I'm not a fan of bitchy tsunderes, she was really well written. And Shinji's talk during instrumentality at the end where he's fighting with himself. Not gonna lie, that inner monologue and fight with himself is something I actually did kind of relate to. And it's that one moment where I was kind of like, not bad for like 6 minutes. Until I watched End of Evangelion and just, let's go to that. Kinda sad, honestly, that Digimon Tamers is a better Evangelion than Evangelion, let's be real here.
End of Evangelion.
Before I start, remember that this movie is heavily rumored to be Anno's fuck you to fans who were not satisfied with the original ending. I mean, that's fine if it was for the fans who were threatening to kill the staff and telling him to kill himself, but I'm sure there's normal Evangelion fans out there who were just disappointed, my gosh. Again, it's a heavy rumor though, to my knowledge, so keep that in mind though as I explain this because it could turn out to be true. Now, I understand the cultural impact this movie had. I know that it's basically the 2001 A Space Odyssey of anime, and I completely understand that. But my gosh, I personally did not care for this movie. Okay, I will say that I absolutely loved the animation in this one. The fight scene with Asuka and the other Evas was actually really awesome, and I will forever praise that scene because it was easily the best scene in this movie, but the rest. I'm not gonna lie, this movie feels overly pretentious and overly edgy at the same time. It's like shock value and some edgy film student's first movie that got them a B+ somehow merged together and had this thing. First of all, fuck that scene where Shinji chokes his chicken to an unconscious Asuka before any of you say, "He's a man, he's gotta do it." No, stop yourselves. If you saw an unconscious woman in a hospital shirt accidentally flew open, would you whip out your ween and choke your chicken? If you do, have fun in jail, buddy, because that's considered sexual assault. Just saying. Second, yes, Shinji is a teenager, and I know teenagers are basically wild animals at this point, regardless of gender, but my gosh, don't have him use his sin hand! Maybe show like seizure flashes of him fantasizing about Asuka since you love using that shit so much. You know what I'm about to say here is a joke, so please don't take it seriously. But Anno based Shinji off himself, right? Anno, my dude, what the fuck did you do to an unconscious girl in a hospital then? Anyway, I get that the whole point of this movie is to be a confusing mess that legitimately makes no sense because Anno was basically like, "Oh yeah, you see this shit? Now none of you know what this shit means. Yeah, this is art, baby." And maybe I just prefer when shit actually makes some gosh damn fucking sense instead of watching incoherent scenes for an hour. You know that scene near the end of 2001 A Space Odyssey where it's literally just flashing colors for 10 minutes straight because humanity is ascending or some shit like that? Now, imagine that scene with seizure flashing for almost 2 hours and you have this movie. Honestly, there is so much I dislike about this movie that I can sum it up like this. What's life? What is humanity? You need to figure out what humanity is for yourself. Humanity is a thing. That's another thing. What is a thing? What contemplates something to be a thing? Yeah, but a thing needs to be a thing because things. Things are just a social construct created by humanity. Yeah, but what is humanity? Wait, I know. Humanity is a thing because things happen, and we have to be humanity because the inner mechanisms of the mind are an enigma, and 42 is the meaning of life. Yes, but what is humanity? It's so frustrating, and I get that's the point, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. These conversations are just so bad as trying to figure out literally anything Shakespeare wrote. Hell, they'll probably replace Shakespeare with Evangelion in future classes because they're both equally as confusing and borderline sound like the ramblings of a crazy person. At the end of the day, why does Shinji get to decide if humanity should live or become orange Kool-Aid? We have seen for 25 episodes that Shinji can't make a solid decision to save his life. Literally. So, why the hell are you entrusting him with something like this? And okay, if people's wills are strong enough that they can come out of the melted orange popsicle, then what the fuck was the point in instrumentality in the first place? If the point was for everyone to be a hive mind, so you can't feel anything anymore, but people can get out whenever they feel like it, then what was the point in literally any of this? And maybe that is the point. What's the point in anything? Considering Ano was going through severe depression, maybe he wanted to express that feeling of what's the point in doing anything in here. And that's okay, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Overall, I am so sorry, Eva fans who are sticking around and probably wiping away their tears of anger with their Eva hentai dojins, but I hated this movie. It's this movie that pretty much made me hate the series for so damn long, and is honestly still the reason I don't like Gainax. But something came along that kinda changed my mind about Evangelion at least a little bit.
エヴァンゲリオン新劇場版序
First of all, I understand these movies are hated, probably because they actually make sense. Isn't it funny how hardcore Eva fans hate interpretations of the series that actually try to have fun and make sense? Funny, isn't it? These rebuild movies are a retelling of Evangelion. In my personal opinion, I honestly think the rebuild movies are for a casual audience, judging by the marketing and execution, despite the fact that it's heavily implied that the rebuild movies are actually a sequel to the original, being where Rei reset the universe or something like that, which is why the sea is red now and there's blood splatter in the moon and why Asuka has a different last name. Anyway, I really like these movies. This movie actually restored my faith in Evangelion because the plot isn't boring me and it's actually moving. The faster pace greatly improved it for me and I just really enjoyed myself. I was actually invested in the series and hey, there's no seizure symbolism this time around, so I didn't have to turn away every couple of minutes. I think there's like one scene, but I probably didn't notice it. Probably the lack of flashing is due to obvious new laws and technology in anime since then, where I'm pretty sure flashing is limited now thanks to the Porygon incident of the 90s. A damn shame kids had to get hurt though for this shit to be over with, but I'm glad no one else gets hurt nowadays by flashing like that, so at least that's good. Overall, I really liked this first movie. It gets to the point where I genuinely enjoy it a lot more than I did the original series. Honestly, I would say I'm a fan if only because these movies are actually very entertaining to see.
エヴァンゲリオン新劇場版は
Again, this movie is really good, though it doesn't explain too much of Asuka's backstory in this one, which is why she wants to be an Eva pilot. Since it seems the backstory of her mom going nuts and taking her own life is removed to put Mari piloting Asuka's Eva instead. According to interviews, the character of Mari was originally created for some test animation for the second Eva movie. When fans begged for more information on her, Ano decided to give her a bigger role in the movie than she was apparently going to have, which my guess was she was going to have a very small role. Just remember, fam, if you don't like Mari, then y'all asked for this. Now, even though Mari is a very strange character, I actually really like her. I think she's very interesting and filled with a lot of potential equal to Rei and Asuka. Perhaps another influence on Shinji. So far, Rei represents waifu culture while Asuka represents a real-life woman. While I was confused on what Mari represents to Shinji, I think I realize now that Mari is likely meant to represent those people who can just pull through everything with a happy smile. You ever see those people? The ones who face every day with optimism and an upbeat attitude even in the worst of times? That's Mari, and that could be pretty important to Shinji in the third or fourth movie, since so far, pretty much no one has that kind of genuine personality in Evangelion so far. Even Shinji's mom isn't a good person since, you know, she wanted her son to watch her die, which is pretty fucked up. Now, I still really enjoyed this movie. I liked seeing Rei get some character development for a change compared to the 90s one where she basically gets as much development as a piece of cardboard. I mean, yeah, Rei is meant to represent the blank empty waifu that you choke your chicken to, but like, come on people. She's still a character within the series, so like, having her get no development as a main character while everyone else does is really awkward to see. Now this movie was great throughout for me, even fixing the elevator scene and changing who gets the ninth angel with Asuka being the one this time, which, you know, makes more sense since it's a character we actually care about. I'm sorry Eva fans, but Toji getting possessed by the ninth angel is just a really dumb plot twist, especially when Toji gets like zero actual character time prior to this. And the slice of life moments too were just great. I'm gonna be honest here, but I actually really love the slice of life moments in Evangelion. It's just really nice, and I feel like Shinji becomes such a likable character when he's actually getting to be a kid with other kids his age. Anyway, this movie does take a really weird turn though. Okay, so Rei gets attacked by the 10th angel and absorbed into the red marble thingy, and Shinji does lose his shit despite we as an audience knowing Rei is replaceable. Rather than run away, Shinji somehow breaks Rei out of this orb, as she's already fusing with this angel as part of Lilith, and fuses her with his Eva, which all Evas are clones of Adam, which causes third impact. What's funny is while watching this, it actually made a lot of sense. Like Shinji doing that anyway, but what was really weird was that Shinji all of a sudden has Rei as his love interest, I guess? I know Shinji wants to save Rei because let's be honest, Rei's probably got the worst out of the three because she's just a replaceable tool, but it feels so weird. But I guess it makes sense since Ano likes to basically go, oh, you want to pick your fake waifu over a real girl? Bam! The world's ending because you chose hentai over people. I mean, yeah, considering Ano likes to shame otaku culture for being so obsessive, then I guess it makes sense, even if the whole situation is just very strange. Oh, the weird music makes a comeback again. And seeing the strange choice in music and seeing Third Impact again was giving me flashbacks to the Eva movie, but honestly, I liked this way more than End of Evangelion. You know, I'm placing my bets right now as this video is playing that there is somebody in the comments already who wrote like an entire thesis on why I should like End of Evangelion and probably is crying into his Asuka body pillow. Overall, so far, I really liked this movie, so on to the next one.
エヴァンゲリオン新劇場版級
I had heard from many Evangelions before I even got into the series that this was the worst of the rebuild movies so far, that this movie was so awful that it apparently ruined the potential of the rebuild movies. So I went in preparing myself for something worse than End of Evangelion. Honestly, those fans must have watched the wrong movie or something because what I watched was actually amazing and I genuinely enjoyed every moment of this movie. Gosh, I can hear hardcore Eva fans wiping away their tears with their Evangelion brand tissues. Also, they're probably writing a really long thesis on why I'm not a true anime fan because I liked the third Evangelion movie. Sorry, by the way, I keep making jokes about hating hardcore Eva fans. It's just a really funny joke to make, and I like pulling up Evangelion products. Now, I found the story of this movie to be particularly enjoyable, and it made sense? Though the immortal Eva pilot thing is still a little weird to me, I'm guessing because Eva pilots are genetically tied to their Eva, that some wacky DNA shit happened during the third impact that stopped their bodies from aging. Though it doesn't explain why Ritsuko and Misato look about the same age, but maybe the firewalls at Nerve HQ have raised DNA in them, so it basically turned them into immortal as well? Now, I loved that the story is basically about Shinji facing the repercussions of choosing his waifu over laifu. I loved that he has to face the consequences of his actions even if he doesn't know at the time it was wrong. I still really liked it because Shinji needs to face that he's basically following the exact same path of his shitty father and needs to learn to change himself early. My absolute favorite thing about this movie was Kaworu. He easily stole the show in this movie next to Asuka, whose character I actually started to like. Kaworu is obviously in love with Shinji, and it's so beautifully sweet, and it's just really wholesome content. I'm not a crazy Fujoshi, by the way. Kaworu is romantically interested in Shinji, and I think we all know this. Though I think it's pretty obvious it's one-sided, since Shinji is a terrible person who chooses to wallow in self-hatred and other issues than learn to go on and hang around people who actually care about him. And the rest of the story was just amazing and fascinating. Evangelion became so much more interesting when you see the third impact for real. We only ever see it in brief flashbacks of the second impact, so seeing a full-on explanation and visuals of third impact was just really cool. The cliffhanger was definitely exciting too. Like, I'm genuinely hoping to see 3.0 plus 1.0. The visuals were also incredible as well. My favorite animation pieces from this movie was when Asuka was walking up to Shinji and punching the glass, because I loved how smooth and fluid the shot was, and the scene with Kaworu teaching Shinji how to play the piano. The color palette also reflected the tone of the movie so well, and I just really loved it. Blacks, reds, and tiny bits of purple. The reds weren't so saturated that it hurt my eyes. It was a pleasing color palette to see all together. The new Eva designs and pilot suits were great as well. Even the characters were great. Shinji is facing the consequences of his actions, that it really shows how much of a prick Shinji can be sometimes, and that he's basically a tiny potential Gendo who cries a lot. Rei was an extremely annoying character in this movie though, even though she doesn't appear much. I mean, all she ever did was question things about herself and say she can't do something because of the mission. So she didn't even feel like Rei, she felt more like a parody of Rei. I know people say they hate Mari because she was underused despite being so hyped in the second movie. Apparently, I didn't see that, by the way, but I still absolutely love her. I love how smug she is, and her facial expressions always remind me of that cat with a knife pointed at it, which is just great. And describes me right now with Evangelion fans. Now, I know she was underused immensely in this movie, like, a lot, but I really liked her. Even what little we saw of her, she was just a really great character to see on screen. The soundtrack was also surprisingly amazing too. There was this one particular synth track, I can't find the name of it right now, but I really loved it. I also just really love synth in general, but overall I actually really liked the soundtrack this time. Honestly, this movie made me a fan of Evangelion by the time I finished it. I absolutely loved this movie to pieces that I honestly have a hard time understanding why Eva fans hate it so much. I mean, I loved it, and I'm someone who prefers Rei over Asuka too.
サイク×エヴァンゲリオン
Yes, I watched a shaving commercial. It's glorious, honestly. It's easily the best anime I've seen of all time, that it honestly rivals the best anime ever made, which is Cory in the House. In actual seriousness though, this was really funny and I had a good laugh watching it.
When's the fucking video? Radio? My gosh!
Say what you will, that I'm not a true Eva fan because I liked the movies, that my opinions aren't valid because I don't like End of Evangelion, but at least I can say I'm a fan of it now, at least a little bit. Am I a huge fan? I mean, no, because I only like the Rebuild movies and what I've heard of the manga. But still, if I found a t-shirt of Unit 1 or of Kaworu, then I would wear it, you know? I hope everyone did like this video though. I know it's a long one and probably a little all over the place, but I wanted to do something insane as review pretty much every anime Evangelion has. I mean, there's probably an OVA out there I didn't see, but it's fine, I think. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any old or new subs would like to help support the channel in any way, then feel free to visit my Ko-fi page down below in the description, along with my social media tabs. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas or maybe want to talk about anime or something, then I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!